just build up this edge. Just build up this edge a little bit more. I don't know what's going on there. That's some crazy town right there. All right, what? All of this stuff, we've got good adhesion. It's just brittle because it's so freaking cold. Hey, thanks for watching Paintucation by Kevin Tetz. We have been working on this thing, despite all the other stuff going on, fenders in the booth, making it glass flat, all that stuff. And by the way, if you want to learn how to paint without orange peel, check out last week's. But thanks for subscribing, thanks for being here, thanks for following along with this crazy adventure trying to make a Camaro that never existed. We're doing good. I've been working a couple of days. I want to show you what I did. We were talking about gapping panels. Check this out. This one's all done. I went all the way down there. We're ready for filler. This door didn't give me too much trouble. We're gapped all the way down. We're ready for filler. Let's sneak around to the other side. It's getting real, folks. We got great gaps actually across the header to the hood. That's pretty dang good. We might have to close that up a taste, but hey, I know how to do it and I showed you how to do it. I know what to do. This little sexy intersection right here, it's great. This one here, ow, that hurt. It was really good up to there. I massaged that a little bit. I had to weld to that a little bit, but we got a good 3/16 gap. Okay, here's the epic fail, right? I painted my dash and my cowl months ago. I painted it last year, midway. And I'm thinking, oh, that'll be fine. I'll work around that, put stuff on it. Look at this. Guess how that happened, Kevin? We had a patch there. There's a little bit of body fill. Guess what I found right there with a grinding wheel making this transition happen. So guess what I'm going to be doing sometime is doing that paint repair. Anyway, whatever. It happens, and get ready for it because it's going to happen. Anyway, the elephant in the room that we're talking about today is this nose. This is one of the most distinctive elements of the Rally Sport front on these cars. This is a urethane bumper, and it was designed to be a safety feature for General Motors.
Some people found it hard to believe.
They called it Endura. It was their trade name for it. And it was all across the board with the early Pontiacs and the GM cars. And this urethane paved the way for urethane fascias over top of a structural subframe bumper and cushion impact thingies. This was the entry into plastics into automotive construction. And they never fit very well. If you look at original cars, these noses, they just don't fit very well. I've looked at a ton of original cars, restored cars, and even people that did some diligence and put some time into fitting these original noses, they just don't fit that great. And I've seen guys use the wrong materials to repair them and get into trouble. It bubbles, it delaminates, all that type of stuff, and we don't want to do that either. Another option is either a carbon fiber nose. Somebody makes that. I think it's Anvil Auto that makes that. Another option is a fiberglass nose. And I saw a guy, gosh, I can't remember the name of his channel, but he did a fiberglass one and they bodyworked it around, and I was going to do that. That part's $800, and then you still got to bodywork it. This one came from AMD, and it's a restoration quality replication part. And it fits as good as the original ones. So let's look at it. Let's see how it fits. Look straight down here. We've got a nice gap here. It's a bit of a step, but the original one had a step. Look at passenger side here, this gap all the way down. That's pretty consistent, and it wows a little bit right there. Underneath the bottom here, we got a bit of a step, but that's fine. Right here, it kind of gets wide, and then it opens up. And the inclination is to close that gap up and close it up to the sheet metal, but we can't right here because it's a known fact that two physical things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So what are we going to do? We're going to make some adjustments. We're going to make it fit. And I'm going to show you some materials that are designed to be repair materials for urethane plastics. I work with a company called Polyvance, and they have a whole host of videos and training programs. They're an ASE certified or accredited training provider as well for modern plastic repair. And they've got great equipment. I've used it before. Anyway, here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you where we're going to make adjustments. Across the top here, okay, we might close that up a little bit. This right here, it's a little wide from about there to about there, right? All right, so down there, I could deal with that. I could live with that. Over across here, it's fine. It closes up, and right about there, kind of all the way down to there, it ain't great. So what I might do is add some filler. Now, I'm not talking about schlepping a bunch of body filler, whether it's plastic filler or polyester filler, onto this to make it fit. We're not doing that. I'm not wiping the gaps and correcting them. What I'm going to do is fix my metal, get that level, and then we'll talk about the nose. So we got a little bit of welding work to do first, but I got to get this nose off of there. Now that I know where to fix, we'll talk about what to fix it with. Got to get some tools. Forgot to tell you, we're going to weld these up here. We're going to make that a solid piece of metal. I've been wanting to do that ever since I took these out of the box. So, what are we going to use? We're going to use some metal rod. I said rod. So this is just some 1/8 inch metal rod that I got actually right around the corner from Ace Hardware, and it was $4. So the beauty of this is that it's easily bendable and it's weldable. I have cleaned it off. They soak these things with a Cosmoline type of thing and keep them from rusting on the shelf, and that can just nasty up your weld. So we're gonna cut a little piece off. And I played around with this on some of the jams, and I learned something. I learned that I don't have to pre-bend this stuff. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. But I'm going to start, and I'm going to fill in where it had a big wide gap, and then we'll grind it flush. So we're going to start with me having the right PPE on, as in my welding hat. I'm just going to kind of hold it in place. Sorry, you can't. So, well, let me switch hands here. There we go. Okay. Hold it right there. Well, that was ugly, but it's got it sitting where I want it to sit. Now, what I'm going to do is got to curve around, so I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure, and is using that one tack as leverage, and I'm going to go a little farther up. 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 So we use leverage and heat to curve it around. Now, of course, I'm going to solid weld that and fill weld that, but I'm also, since I'm in here, I'm going to fill these guys. All right, so far so good. We have got our header joined as one, and a sign of ceremony of holy welding matrimony. And I've got this kind of ground down with a big dumb animal, the flap wheel. And it's not perfect, but it's getting pretty okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take that down just a little bit farther with this guy, because I've got more control with this guy, and it's a flat surface trying to make a flat surface. So I'm going to grind a little bit more, then we're going to test fit our nose. All right, we're going to give it a shove, see what happens. I'm hoping that I can just set one side at a time in and just kind of gauge. Yeah, we can do that. All right, so we can see what's happening there. It's closed it up here. And I am going to follow this with a bit of body fill, not right now. I'm going to get the rough out done, but it's still out a little bit. I'm going to get a marker. It's still out a little bit. I can see exactly where I need to grind. Boy, it's not bad, man. Looks like I need a little more right to there. You can see a gap growing right there. So there's my mark. That looks pretty darn spanky to me, so we're going to try that again. Try and get both sides in. All right, so I wedged both sides in. And it's a snug fit with the brackets tight, but you can see now that I've closed that up pretty good. All right? Pretty happy with that. Pretty solid all the way down. So I'm just going to clean that up with an 80 grit DA, and we're going to call that corrected. Hang on. You can see what the dual action sander does. It's a 6-inch flat spot that's vibrating a lot, and it allows me to round that corner off to match the original contour and just kind of level out any weird spots that might have been left in there. So this side, we're rocking, man. We're good to go, except this. All right, so the gap is closed up pretty good. I'm a little proud right here, so I'm going to just shave off a little bit more on that upper brow. But the rest of it is pretty consistent. So I'm just going to do what I did before. I'm going to flatten it out, come back with a DA sander, shave a little bit off of there. I'll check it with my straight edge, but that's kind of mission accomplished for straightening out the metal. Before we can straighten out the nose, we've got to straighten out the foundation that it sits on. So I'm pretty pleased with this. Got a little bit more work to do, then we'll get back to the fun part. All right, so looking at this, of course we've got it's flush right across the top here. If you look at the side here, we've corrected that metal very nicely. It's very consistent. So right there, that's fine. It's proud right here. It's sticking out. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, over here, our metal looks really good. Now, I can even accentuate that a little bit further with some filler, but it looks pretty good, except for there's a gap, right? So when you look at that from even a little farther away, that's probably a factory gap. Yeah, it closes up a little bit. But I can't push it any more forward, and I don't want to weld any more metal in there. I just wanted this consistent. And it's proud right here. It's sticking up, right? So the first correction on the nose that I'm going to make, on the nose, is just, I'm going to get my 8 grit DA sander, and I'm going to just smooth that to the panel. And I forgot to do this. I've been manhandling it. I'm going to clean this before we start working on it, because I don't know where that's been. So I'm using Polyvance stuff. They've got a plastic cleaner, Eco Prep. I'm a huge believer in cleaning. So even before I start body working this panel, I'm just going to clean the plastic off. It's been sitting, oh, look at that, right? It's from me handling it. It's been sitting in a storage container, maybe. I don't know where it's made. Some of these things are made offshore. Nothing wrong with that, but before I start grinding the contamination that's already in the surface into the body of it, I'm going to wipe it off. It's one of those best practice things. All right. I'm going to bring in a bigger gun. That's better. All right, so now I've got a nice, well, it's fairly nice. I'm going to take a little, it's kind of bumps up right there. I'm going to take a little bit more off of there. Yeah, that's doing what I want it to do. All right, we're good. I'm starting to expose that thin edge right there, and that's fine. We're going to back that up. But that got rid of that ugliness right there. We might have a little more down here. No, it's fine. It's going to be good. All right. Now we'll go to the other side. All right, so I got to tell the truth here. These paper masks, or fabric masks, whatever they are, they work really well for this fine dust, but they fog my glasses up, and if you're picking up a little bit of pissiness from me, I get frustrated because my glasses fog up. Here's the truth. This fine dust, body shop dust, if I don't protect my sinuses, I get a raging sinus infection, and it's gross, and it ends up going down into my chest, and then we get into real trouble. And that's whatever. I try and do my best with PPE at all times, and most of the time it keeps me safe. All right, same type of thing on this side. It's proud from about there to about there. So we just do the bump and grind, right? All right, so this is 80 grit also. It seems to be doing a nice job of this, but check out this angle from the top down right here. Now you can see how that is contoured nicely. One part flows into the next part, right? Across the top here, we're in good shape. This part flows into the next part, except for a little bit right there. I'm going to take that down a little bit, probably by hand. And we've got a gap. We'll address the gap. We're going to go shopping at the gap. So a little bit more work, and then we'll move on. I know you're wondering what the heck I'm doing, but all shall be revealed pretty soon. All right, so now we've got the fit I want right there. This part flows into this other part, and we've got consistent metal there that I'll probably use a fiberglass filler on and super flatten it out, but we're addressing this right here, right now. So I've got some cleanup to do. You can stand over there and watch me make dust and wipe things down, but we're getting ready for the fun part right now. All right, so now we're going to close up this gap. What I'm going to do first is protect my metal edge. I'm kind of using the tape, sawing it in between there. You can see how it's falling in between the grill and the header, right? And we'll come back and we'll deal with that bare metal at another point. Heck, even high build primer, well, except for there. We need a little bit of fiberglass filler for there, but this, our basic shape is there. And it's there nicely, right? So there. It's a little snug and a bug and a rug right there. If I can saw it in a little bit, yeah, it goes in there. I'll stretch my tape well. I want to make sure. See, that's illegal. I don't want any overlap. I'm just protecting the metal. Can we seesaw? A little bit up at the front. All right, so we're going to be doing that. When you pull your tape a little bit, it'll kind of help you, and it'll stretch around some corners. I'm also going to do a little bit down here because it's tucked in right here and it isn't on the other side, so I want to build this up. Right here, I'm okay with a little lip across the bottom. I may come back later and get persnickety and get all full of myself on that, but I think for the most part we're just going to worry about this top area. All right, so that's got it outlined. Now we're going to come back with the big wide fat tape. And that's fine right there. And right now, I'm completely protecting my nose, not from a sinus infection. See that little overlap right there? Get that, camera guy. Hang on. We don't want that. We want that gone. All right, so the main area that we're working is going to be this area here, not to make it flush, because I made it lumpy. We're just going to body fill that. I want it super smooth. I got to fill in here because it's low all the way across from here, all the way across to there. All right, so here's what I'm using, and I'm using it way over here for a very good reason. This is cooking spray. This is made from canola oil. It's a name brand. It's been around for decades, and it's an excellent release agent. So I'm going to put it on my towel because I don't want this atomized mist anywhere near where I'm going to be body working. Release agent is also going to be, it's going to interfere with my filler's adhesion. So we're going to do this. I'm just going to give it a quick surface wipe. So when I overlap my filler, I don't want it to stick. I don't want it to stick to the tape. We may get a little bit of that, but we're not going to get much of it. Doesn't take much of this stuff. That's all we're going to use. So now I'm going to get rid of these gloves. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to probably wipe this down, and then I'll come back and we'll go to work. All right, I lied. I'm going to take this tape off now with these contaminated gloves. Now we're going to go to work, and I'm going to take these gloves off. All right, so you've all probably figured out what it is that I'm doing. I'm fixing the transition where the parts don't meet up. We're using filler, but we're using the right filler, right? We're just not using Bondo off the shelf. This stuff is from Polyvance. It's a 2-part epoxy, flexible or rigid sandable filler. It's made for this stuff. It is absolutely compatible with polyurethane, which is what that bumper is made out of. It's really good for urethane fascias as well. They did a repair on my Miata bumper. Oh, holy smokes, this stuff. Okay, so here's one of the detriments of working in a shop in the wintertime. This stuff has to have equal parts, or actually really close. And since it's stupid cold in the shop, it doesn't want to come out the tube. So what I'm going to do, hang on. I should get my crock pot and heat this stuff up just like the red paint. Okay. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a small part, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, and then we'll attack it a piece at a time, because this stuff, it's about 65 degrees or so in here, but it don't want to come out the tube. So we've got a part A and a part B, super easy to mix, equal parts. So I'm going to do a wild turkey poo the same distance, about the same thickness as the first turkey poo. I might put these in a bucket of hot water, because I'm going to need more than this. But this will get you the idea of what I'm trying to do here. Like any filler, it's got to be blended completely. As soon as you don't see any streaks, that's when we can apply, right? Kind of looks like a Bob Ross cloudy sky right there, doesn't it? Ooh, we're going to make some happy little epoxy. Yes. Bob is going to be our uncle on this stuff. Okay. So the fact that it's cooler in here means this stuff is going to take a little bit longer to dry. That's fine. All right, no more streaks. Now we're going to stick it on here. All right, so I'm going to focus on this area right here, kind of up into there. This will give you an exact idea of what I'm doing. I'm trying not to dip too much into my cooking spray release agent, but I do want it to bridge over a little bit. This may take several applications, people. Just saying. All right, I've got to go mix up some more, but that's the state I'm going to leave that in. Now you understand why I put my release agent on that other paper, because I want to be able to peel it off, man. All right, so I'm just gonna keep mixing and working my way across the top here. We are gonna be using a high build primer on this as well, but we'll body work first. I'm heating up my 2-part epoxy filler, and I wanted to show you this. We're talking about wintertime. It's 61 degrees metal temp, right? 63 degrees. It's still gonna cross-link, but we've been waiting enough time. Ideal temperatures are in the mid-70s, even 80s. It's still tacky on the first application. It's still wet on the second application. Look, I'm pulling it off. I say this to you in the spirit of when you're doing body work in cooler temperatures, you're gonna have to wait a longer amount of time. That's all there is to it. So you've heard of crawl, walk, run. This is in the crawl phase. Okay, so heating the tubes up made a huge difference. I'm just gonna, so the tube is 70 degrees now. Well, it helps, right? Much better. Oh yeah, look at that. Ooh, that's too much. One of the turkey poos was not enough. Okay, well, I'm gonna put these down in front of the heat gun again. Oh, look at that. It even spreads easier. Oh, we got, what is that? Is that mixing? Yeah, it's what? I don't like that. Put that guy over there in the sin bin. So I continued to mix up small batches and put them on just a little bit at a time. And I found that while I was overlapping a small batch that was still tacky, I didn't have to sand and prep underneath it because they would cross-link together because they're still open. So on one hand, yeah, we're fighting temperature because everything is cold and it takes a while to dry. But on the other hand, it's keeping our product open enough to where we can kind of stack it up and work our way across this panel without having to stop, sand, get mechanical adhesion, and it all just sort of, well, just works together. You're gonna fight temperature in the extreme heat, and you're gonna fight temperature in cold temperatures. So you gotta figure out a way to get around it. Speaking of a way to get around it, now it'll be warming up. All right, so this is no longer tacky. Turbocharging the temperature with our space heater worked. So we're gonna start blocking with 80. See, right there you can tell that we're getting a nice feathered edge between the filler and that urethane material. So adhesion is excellent with this stuff. I just thought of a better idea. It's a lot less work. Hang on. Smarter, not harder, isn't that it? Well, that made more sense to me. So there's the original core material, there's our filler, and there's nothing wrong with roughing it out with a machine, but I always want to come back and correct and refine with a sanding block. We just have more control. But the truth is, I got to have more fill material here. So it just takes a while, man. So I'm going to scuff this up here so we have mechanical adhesion between the new filler and this dried stuff. And we're going to do another application. I think I found the recipe with our turbo heater also. If I don't sand these little pockets, they're going to turn into air pockets and bubbles. We don't want that. If I see any shiny stuff, we got to come in and scuff it. Got to scratch it up. There's one other benefit to bridging this over, and it locks it in, it holds it still. So if this did happen to want to move anywhere, it ain't going to, as long as I've got that bridged over. The pencil grinder gives me one more really great way to put a mechanical scratch in the low spots, in those pockets that we don't want to skin over an air pocket or an air void, because that can cause bubbling down the road. And just to give you a bit of an idea about the time investment in doing this particular filler, well, it takes about maybe a minute and a half to mix up. It doesn't take very long, maybe let's just say 3 minutes to apply it. It takes about 15 minutes, especially in this temperature, to get it dry enough to where it'll start to powder and where you can sand it. So when you add all of that together, it translates to about 2 hours worth of application, blocking down and sanding to do what I'm doing to correct this nose. And you add that to the 3 or so hours that we spent refining the metal on the actual two-piece header panel. All of that kind of gives you a ballpark figure of about 10 hours work on refining this nose and making it fit the header. If that sounds like a huge time investment, well, it's not. It's relatively small. And when you consider that the front of the hood and the front of the car is the most observed part of the vehicle, second only to around the driver's door handle, it really matters how this stuff lines up and how it matches and how one part flows to the next part. And I guess I'm going down a rabbit hole with it, but, you know, like I said before, I want it nice. There's a pretty pronounced style line right here at the peak of this nose. Now, we're going to correct it and we're going to perfect it and make sure that it lines up with the rest of it. There's one on the header and a little bit of one on the hood. But we're going to make sure that that really shows up nicely and for the proper reasons of the design aspect of this car. Blah, 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 blah. I know. Now, once I was happy with how things shaped out with 80 grit, I came back with 180 on a firm block to just kind of get rid of some of those heavy sanding scratches and feel over the top, make sure that it was nice and flat. All right, so I'm pretty okay with this. Now, all of these lines, the overlap tape, that's all going to come off. And we'll deal with that on the stand. So for now, we're going to pull this apart. Now, the outside of the RS nose, that's one thing, but we got to make sure that the mating surface is built up as well. And all that just means we got to pull the nose piece off and check it again on the bench top. See what the back sides look like. All right, so looking at the back side of this, we can see where we've added filler right here. That's nice and stuck right there. That's what we need right there. This little chunk right here, I might have to put some back here. That's okay. I'll resand that, add a little bit back in. You can see where it overlapped the tape. So what I'm going to do now is come around here with a sanding block and just sort of shave some of that flash off. We'll test fit it a couple of times. I don't want to take too much off yet, because I don't know what it looks like up against the car. All right, let's see what that looks like up against. Wow, one little more. Can't stop. Can't stop. Now I'll mark out where I need to shave it some more. But all right. Nose on nose. Nose. Back on nose. All right, let's look. Across the top, that's good. That's bad. I know how to fix that. I've just got to replace that. I've got to sand it properly on the backside of that and make it thicker and fatter on the backside, but that's fine. I know where it's supposed to go. Nice tight gap here. I will open that up just a hair and kind of roll it over. This side is, wow, it's super crisp. And again, oh, wow's a little bit right there. So I'm going to mark this, and I'm going to take enough off, and I'll flatten it out on that edge. But I'm going to take enough off to where we get a factory-looking gap. I don't want it closed. I want a factory-looking gap, something like what that looks like, all the way around it. And again, I'll roll that around so it looks like an OE part. So we're getting close, man. Now, I'm not going to trim, well, I'm going to trim a little bit of this right in here. Just a taste, but mostly I'm going to roll that edge. Just flatten it out just a little bit. All right, so it's overnight. It just got late and it got cold. So I just let this sit. I kind of let it sit in front of the heater. So I'm going to unmask this, but I want to show you something. It's 51 freaking degrees in here. 49, okay. So it's 49 degrees in here. Our surface temp is 54. So just like nothing good happens after midnight when you're out clubbing, nothing good happens under 50 degrees in the body shop world. So I'm going to finesse this a little bit more. My little repaired places, I'm going to block them out. We'll test fit one more time. And then we're bringing this thing over to a warm shop to where we can do the next step. All of this stuff, we've got good adhesion. It's just brittle because it's so freaking cold. All right, we're going to block that. So I'm still using 80 grit to shape this. It just seems to go really quickly. Especially on these thin edges that don't have a lot of stand-up, not a lot of build-up here. All right, happy for that corner. All right, so I've got this thing loosely bolted into place, and you can see I've rolled my edges nicely. Everything blocks out good. Our gap is just like I wanted it. So if you look at this gap here, the fact that I've rolled the top corner, the super tight corner, and made it look a little more OE right there. I'm just holding this up by hand. It'll snug up later. So let's look at the other side. Again, here, I'm not torquing it down, but that's the way she fits when it's all bolted down. And that's a nice fit, right? That's a super nice fit. Up the gap, it's nice and rounded over. A little bit of a wow right there, but I'm gonna do filler on the header. But when we look at the top again, it's got a nice natural seat. So I'm fine with the fit of the nose. I like it. I'm happy with this. So what I'm going to do now is there's a couple little tiny pinholes. What I'm going to do is block it all with 180. It won't change the shape, but it just gets rid of those aggressive 80 grit scratches. And then we're going to take this, like I said, over to the warm shop, and we're going to use a really interesting 1K primer surfacer on this nose. And yeah, so yeah, my hands are kind of numb. I can't really feel them, but we're getting close. I don't know if we're getting close. We're closer. I can't stop say things like we're getting close, because it just feels good to work on this car. All right, so I've got a couple of micro pinholes. I'm just going to use this stuff. It's a flexible polyester finishing putty, and I'm just going to kind of daub it into some of those craters. What I like about it is that it dries quickly. We're not asking to have it perform any structural duties. All it's got to do is fill in a couple of cavities. I've got everything marked out. It's my heater kicking on because we actually have heat in this building. We're working on it on the other side, on the other place. Whatever, man. All right, that's about it. We'll let that kick off, and then we'll block that and get to priming. Prime time, prime time. I'm still using 180 on a firm block to level out the filler that I put over top of the pinholes. The polyester filler I put over top of the epoxy filler that we repaired the nose with is much softer when you sand on it. The epoxy is actually quite firm and quite difficult, so we don't stand any real risk of digging holes or distorting the shape that we've blocked out. And I'm kind of giving it a once over, all the little edges. If there's any, weirdness that I see, I'm going to just knock it down, knock the top off of it, and I'll blow it out. I'm using a dry microfiber as well. This gets all of the dust out of any other pinholes that might be there or any other inconsistencies. It just allows me to give it a good solid inspection. Now I'm going to use this product. It's called 440 Express from Evercoat, and spoiler alert, this is their video. I'm borrowing it, and I don't think they mind since I'm plugging their product. Basically what you do is work the product into the filler surface, and what it does is it gets jammed down into the micro pinholes of the surface and dries incredibly hard. You wait about 15 minutes for it to dry, and I always like to scuff over the top anyway in case there's stand-up, but especially for a waterborne primer like we're using, it's really important that you scuff over the top of it. The reason I like this product so much is because when you use a high build primer, it's so viscous that if there's tiny air pockets, it can bridge over top of them and cause a gap, and either cause a pinhole in the surface that you got to fill in later, or an air gap underneath that could sink down in and show itself to you through your top coats. So essentially, it's just an insurance policy that takes a few seconds to apply and is really a nice addition to this whole procedure. If you've ever had to fill in pinholes in your high build primer, you know what I'm talking about. After my 15 minutes wait time, I'm using a red pad on all the inside edges and back sides and following with 220 on a soft hand pad just to make sure that there's no stand up and that I've got everything thoroughly cleaned off. Chasing it again with a dry microfiber and compressed air. Now we're ready for the booth. So the high build primer we're using is a 1K by Polyvance. It's a Waterborne, and don't mistake 1K being weak or cheap. I've seen this primer do incredible things, and it's perfectly mated for adhesion onto that polyurethane. It's literally made for bumper covers, fascias, things like this. And I'm stirring it, not shaking it on my paint shaker. I've got a paint shaker just waiting over there. Any Waterborne doesn't need to be shaken on a shaker. You can aerate it, which means putting tiny micro bubbles in it, which can cause all kinds of problems in application. I don't see any chunks or lumps, so we're going to pour some into a cup and then strain it into our spraying cup. So my gun, it's a 1.5 fluid tip. Polyvance recommends a 1.5 to 1.7, so we're right in range. And yeah, now we're going to, this is the fun part. Now we get to pour. It's a full gallon. Credit where credit is due. My buddy Dan showed me this, and I will be forever grateful. It's basically a DIY pour spout. You're making it stick to the inside of this lip. Got a secondary seal on the outside of that lip. One side under, the other side under. Pinch it. Make a pour spout. And pour. Oh yeah. All right, so what I don't use, I can put back into here. Since it's 1K, it's not going to be mixed. So I've got about 16 ounces in there. I don't know how much I'll need. Now I didn't pour paint all over my mix bench. I like that. Paint strainers are cheap. Picking a piece of garbage that fell into your paint from your paint gun, well, that's a pain in the butt. Having to redo a spray job because there's trash in it, well, that's expensive. So always strain into your mixing cup, not into your spray cup. A lot of times I'll tack off my panel, chasing it with a spray gun, just with air coming out, about the same spray pressure that I use to spray the material. This Waterborne primer, well, it's thick, and it doesn't necessarily spray out smooth. It covers incredibly well because it's a high build, high solids primer. But it goes on kind of lumpy. Even with the 1.5 tip, which is on the small side of the recommendations for Polyvance, it looks really gnarly when I spray it on there. It's not running, it's not clotting, it's not sagging or anything like that, but it just looks a little bit thick. Now that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It levels out as the moisture comes out of the surface and it dries. Our booth temperature is about 68 degrees, and typically it's a 10-minute flash time, but I left it about 15 just to make sure it was flashed completely. Second coat is exactly the same application as the first coat. My gun is set at 25 psi at the inlet, and I'm paying really close attention to my technique. I don't want to run this stuff. I don't want to stack it up. It's not the end of the world if you run your primer, but it just takes so much longer to dry, especially with Waterborne. Another 10 to 15 minute flash time, and we're ready for the third coat. And you can see that I'm off to the side when I'm spraying. I'm not directly in front of my spray gun. This allows me to take a light reflection from one of the booth lights and gauge how much material that I'm putting on. You're always going to be looking at the panel that you're spraying and not at the spray gun. It comes from muscle memory and practice, but you'll get the hang of it if you're not used to spraying, or if this is maybe your first time, if you're trying something like this in your own garage. On another note, having the piece mounted like it mounts on the car on one of these stands really gives me great access to the back sides of it, and we want to cover everything in the primer. And since I've had people ask about it before, this stand comes from Astro Pneumatic. It's called a super stand. Now, I've had mine for a while, but I just did a quick search online and I see them priced between $200 and $300. I let the piece flash off in the booth and then moved it out into the shop where it was actually a normal temperature and let it sit. From there, went back to the other shop the next morning and used my pencil grinder to get all the E-coat off from in the back sides of the welds and get it ready for the Fiberglass short strand filler. I've got the metal reinforced filler also, and I use that on the sail panels, but for this right here, I like the Fiberglass because I'm not asking it to do much. All I'm asking it to do is build up the surface, and frankly, it works down a lot easier than the metal-filled filler. The mix ratio for catalyst is the same as most polyester fillers. It's 2% by weight, or one stripe across a fist-sized bubble or pile of the filler, and mix it until you don't see any streaks. Now, I had my turbo heater pointed at the nose of the car to get the metal temperature up to at least 65, 68 degrees. I think we accomplished that, and what that's going to do is just allow the material to dry in a normal fashion. Even if your air temperature is less, if your metal temperature is acceptable, or 70 degrees plus, then your materials are going to outgas properly, and you can kind of cheat air temperature that way. I'm also putting a skim coat across the header where I've joined the two pieces together. This Fiberglass filler won't allow moisture to penetrate from the backside, which is kind of an insurance policy with this header panel. We let everything sit for about 15 or 20 minutes, and I'm coming back with a flat block in 80 grit. This is called roughing out, and I'm just basically creating the shape that's going to give me an excellent mating surface between our newly refined nose and the header panel that we've modified. Once it warms up in here a little bit, I'll eventually come back with conventional polyester fillers, wipe over top of this stuff, and I'll block it out again nicely, and then we'll use high-build primers and make it all look good and sexy and the same as the rest of the car. To be honest, I'm pretty darn excited about seeing how this thing all fits together. When we look at the nose, it looks really good. All the edges around it, my little peak up here is nice and crisp. All of these edges here, I've rolled them over to where it's just a nice, it just looks like an original part. Everything feathered in nicely. This thing's ready to go. And the primer laid down pretty darn smooth. You can still see a little bit of texture in it, but this is a high build sanding primer. There's 3 coats of this on here. This is still going to get blocked down, possibly blocked a second time if I prime it with the rest of the car. But this gets it to a position to where we can put it on the car like it's going to be. So yeah, let's take a look at how this turned out here. All of these transitions here that I welded solid, we've got fiberglass filler there. Like I said earlier, the reason we're using fiberglass filler is because it provides a moisture-proof barrier to where we're not going to get any moisture coming from the backside that could potentially bubble up our coatings on the front side. It's a pretty good idea when you're doing a repair like that, or even patching into a door or doing a rust patch on a car, to use fiberglass as your first stage. Anyway, all of this super nice and flat. Junctions and joints and all that stuff. Again, this now goes to high build primer. Still haven't decided what I'm going to do with a giant C right here. I might make an emblem. I don't know. The factory Chevrolet C goes there. I don't know. Anyway, I'm postponing the inevitable because I'm looking forward to it so much. But we're going to throw RS nose on RS front and yeah, and see how she fits. Where's my ratchet? There it is. Alrighty then. All right, camera guy, come and smoke this thing over. Look at this. That's better than it was when I pulled it out of the box. Ladies and germs, I'm happy with that. The gaps are consistent all the way around. It's not like it's molded in place, but it looks like a really nice fitting factory piece. When I'm looking at this, I'm eyeballing the profile. Okay, oh, look at that. That's the win right there. Here's what I'm talking about. Look, the profile of the hood in the peak. Look how it travels down there. We were talking about design on these things before. That's it, man. That's it. It's such a subtle thing, but it's such an important design element out of this extension on this nose. It's what drew me to this nose in the first place. It's exotic, it's European, it's influenced from the early Indy cars and the Formula One. I might be making stuff up, I don't know, but I really, really am excited about this. So, okay, all right, this is a W. And for once, I can't find a single thing to blame on Ron Ryan on this car, which I guess never say never, but thanks, Ron, for staying out of this one. Anyway, now what do we do now? I've got it gapped. I've got this crisped up. I've got a tiny little bit of gappage to do here. We're going to start refining. We're going to start refining the fit. We're going to start doing body filler and body filler on the rest of this car. It's a pretty good bit of work. For the most part, every panel is in good shape. This driver's fender is probably the worst panel on the car. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about with that. Our gap is nice. This is where I spliced the fender. This is the fender of the car that Rodney got. And it was decent enough down here. Well, we spliced it across here because this one was all caved in and rotten and smashed and full of Bondo and all this stuff. And yeah, we got a bit of a deficit there. I'll do the same trick there with the fiberglass filler. And we've got a little bit of a dent across the bottom here. So this is going to require the most body work, except for this panel. Come over here. Oh man, this is making a really good argument for just reaching for AMD sheet metal. But anyway, this right here, I've still got some pick and file to do on this stuff, but we saved this fender. I kind of want to keep on going with this and keeping at least three original panels on this car, just for the nostalgia of it. Have we gone too far with this car? I don't think so. We're just getting started. And compared to my old car, my old second gen, the 78 True Z28 Z sled, that car was toast. It needed wiped stem to stern, head to toe, top to bottom. This is not going to require that amount of body work. That said, you know, again, we're going down the rabbit hole of fixing dents like that. We're not going to paint anything crazy. We're going to make it nice. It's not going to be a show winner, but it is going to be a nice car. So we appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for putting us further up on the ticker. I think YouTube recognizes the fact that you guys are watching these episodes, and I just appreciate you guys. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for letting us know how you feel about stuff and the stuff that you want for us to do on the channel. And we appreciate you coming back every week. We'll see you next week.